Shalom, shalom. Uh, First and foremost, I'd like to start out by saying Barakatham, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. I'd like to give all honor and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to those elect, starting with the 144,000, shalom. Right, so, Lord willing, right? Um, just want to take a walk. Got a camera flip this way, like his brother Naam Kiyah, you know. Uh, about another lesson. I got a camera flip this way because I'm going to Ezekiel 38, and there's some maps I'm gonna have to show. So I want to, be able to show the maps from my other device or whatnot, you know. So, well, willing, we'll get into it. In this chapter, beyond this chapter, ever since things been popping off and tensions been rising, with World War III, with everything going on, I've been kind of in this chapter a lot, and I go into a lesson, it comes out or whatnot, a precept in there, might go into it. And, this chapter is a very important piece in prophecy, in time prophecy that's soon to be fulfilled, you know. So you see the nice waterfall. And I hope this gives one of these thumbnails of the nature outside, But it's a very, very important piece in prophecy that's end time prophecy that's soon to come to pass, you know. And we know that we wait on the MOTB to be mandated and pushed out, you know, Jacob trouble to hit its peak. And Lord willing, we know that's when Armageddon, World War III, man, the war to end all wars. And the rulership of Yahweh Bashim Shah and the rulership of the Israelites, will be instituted into the earth, man. Right? So, and of course, we're outside, so excuse me, sometimes I keep my head on the swivel, just being on points. I ain't a big fan of dogs. A lot of people be having dogs on the track, so definitely gotta keep my heads up for that or whatnot. I ain't gonna say I'm not a big fan of dogs. I'm not a big fan of other people's dogs. Say that, right? So let's start right here. Got a book right here. Now I'll show some maps, Lord willing, too as well on here as well. But we'll read it from here, right? So this is Ezekiel 38, from verse 1. It says, "The word of the Lord Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against God, right, in the land of Magog." We know that's speaking of Russia, right? Um, we understand it, right? That's the precept. It says, "The land of against God, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him," right? Because we understand it, um, chief prince Ra'ashah, Ra'ashah, Russia, right? And Meshach and Tubal is in Turkey. Meshach and Tubal is in Turkey, but you have, back in the day you had in that land, Magog, yeah, I think it was Magog. He was one of the descendants of Japhet. It was ancient Japhite, the Madai people. They dwelled in that land. You know, the Medes or whatnot. And today, uh, the Medes, the Medes dwelled in that land back then. And today you have those Russians in that land today. Right? I got right here in my notes. Right? Today, modern day Gog is Russian. Back then you had the actual Medes in that land, the Madai people, right? Which today, so-called Russians in that land. Meshach and Tubal connected to modern day Turkey today, right? So I'm gonna go to a map, right? This is the map I got from the elder Apostle Rumli, Doberman Pincher behind me, right? So this is a map that I got from let me see if it come up clearly. So I get it to focus up. Might need to sit down. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Right. So we okay, there it is. Right, so as you can see, you have Magog, right? You have Meshach and Tubal, right? And I'm gonna show you another map showing you how. I got different maps because you'll see how certain maps, places located in the wrong spot. you know, whatnot things. So I got different maps to show, you know, put it all together, right? So as you see on the previous map I showed where the lands were, and on this map you can see, you know, we take a two balls right around there, right? Where Turkey is today. You have Russia, which there was land of Magog, right? Which the lands were right there, right? So we go back to the old map once again, just so you can see, right? We take two balls right around there in Turkey. You have Magog, you know, Russia, right? Let's get back to the scripture, right? He says, and say this said the Lord Yahweh, behold, I am against thee, O God, a chief prince. Let me take a two ball, right? Because when you understand it, back then, the Medes came up against Medo-Persian Empire. They came up against our people, our land. They took over our land, you know, right? Lord is against these Gogites, right? You know, which were up in that land, the Medes in the area, because at one point, Medes came up against our people, you know, when Ed Apostle Rumlah, he was speaking on it, right? He's going to say how, you know, when you understand it, if you know the scripture, right? In second Ezra, or first Ezra chapter 2, when the Most High, you know, Cyrus the Great said that the Most High had told him to allow us to rebuild the second temple, right? You know, and you know, decreed that we should build a second temple, and the Medes decreed that we stopping of it, right? You know, that came up against our people, so the Most High is against them, which today those Russians are in that land, right? It says, verse 4 says, I will turn thee back and put hooks in thy jaws. I will bring thee forth in all thy army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords, right? So we'll start back from the top again and we'll break it down. It says, I will turn thee back, put hooks in thy jaws. So we understand the Most High is going to turn Russia back to that old USSR. You know, they're going to turn it back into that it was known back then as that Iron Wall. You know, though they had those great company of allies, they're going to come back together. You know, it says, I will bring thee forth in all thy army, because it's going to be all those allies that are going to come together. You know, and Most High also speaks about in Ezekiel 39, how, you know, that Ezekiel 39 verse 2, you know, that sixth part, Russia broke into 6 parts. 5/6 of his army is going to be fighting in this war, and 1/6 is going to stay back to protect the land or whatnot, right? But it says, I would turn thee back and put hooks to thy jaw, because Russia going to return back to their old USSR. If you know today, like Georgia, Russia, you have plenty of people who broke away from it. And instance, the one I like use Georgia, Russia, because it's right there. It's going to show up on the map, a couple maps I show, right, in a minute, right? But Georgia, Russia, right, which is part of, we'll take a seat here so we can see these maps a little clearer, right? But Georgia, Russia, which is part of Russia, was not Georgia, Russia, it's just called Georgia now, because those are like people who broke away from Russia, in a sense, right? They broke away from Russia and became independent, so to speak, right? So it says, I would turn thee back and put the hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thy army, horses and horsemen, thou them clothed with armor. You know, ultimately, when it says horses, the horsemen, and all thine clothed with armor, even a great company, right? Because all those allies, majority of them they're gonna come back together, USSR. You know, all of them, to majority, are gonna come back together, and they're gonna fight in this war, Armageddon, World War III, right? You know, against this whore, right? It says, he was the great company which we went into, Russia and his allies, with bucklers and shields, all them handling swords. We know the modern day swords and the gears were the tanks, the fighter jets, the guns, you know, things as such, right? So right here it goes into some of his allies right here, as you can see, right? So it says Persia, right, which is modern day Iranians, right? As you can see right here on the map, I go back to it, right? You see, let me make it clear up. You see Persia is right there, right? You see Persia is right there, right? And when you go to this other map, right, let's see, bear with me. Bear with me, I can find the other map real quick. I still got these maps. Okay, Slacky, I want to show this as well. Going back to the speaking of that USSR, right? Speaking of that USSR, right? See, Soviet Union, you know, they're gonna come back together. I don't know why it won't clear up. Gonna come back together, man, right? Majority is gonna come back to this fight. But we're gonna go to this map to show where, you know, okay, is it this one I want to grab, or was another one? Yeah, right here, right? So you see Persia, which is right here, right, which is Iran today, right? You see it. And also, there's another one as well, right here, but you can see it clearly. Iran is the purple, so it's Persia, you know, modern day Iranians, right? Come on. Esau trying his best to delay this thing, but Iran right there today, modern day Persia. Why is it blurring like that, man? Like this new technology, man, right? Let's go back to it, right? So then you have, it says Persia, which is modern day Iran. It says Ethiopia, right, which is the ancient Kushites, right? The Kushites, let's see on the map right here. Let's go back to this map, right? I had a map with Ethiopia on it. I thought I did, but they ancient Kushites, you know. Come on, man. Bug flying around, right? So this ancient Kushites, right? See what it says, Kush. I don't know why it's doing that. See where it says Kush Ethiopia, right? You know, right? And then it says, so that's the Ethiopia is the Kushites, right? And it says Libya, which is northern Africa, right? When you go to the other map, bear with me. Not this map, the other one, right? When you go to, you see Libya, right? See Libya, which is right there, right? Go to the map, you see it's in northern Africa, right? So all these countries, you know, Russia and his allies are gonna come up, and they're gonna bring pain to this place, man. Both sides are gonna put hooks in their jaws. They're gonna turn back. Russia's gonna turn back to that USSR, and is gonna gather up it and its allies, and they're gonna come bring pain to this place, man. You know, pure destruction, right? So then let's continue reading, right? It says Gomer, right, and all his bands, I mean his armies, right? Gomer is in Russia as well, right? Here on the one map, it has it in the wrong spot. You see, on this map, Gomer is right there, right? But I'm gonna show you the other map where it's really at, which is where it's located in Turkey with Meshach and Tubal, right? You probably can't see it clearly with how this it is, but it's right there. You see Tubal, Gomer, Beth, you know, right? So you see how that is, right? Right. So then let's go here. Where he says, and all his bands in the house of Togomar of the North Quarters, right? House of Togomar is in the North Quarters. So when you go back to here, right, it's located right here under, let's see. It's located right here. Togomar right there in the North Quarters, right? And it's right there near, oh, you got Georgia, Russia, right? You have, so let's go to this map, right? Armenia, right? Which would be right around here, right? Caucasus Mountains, right? Georgia, Russia, Armenia, right? You know, right there in the north parts, right? Or North Quarters, as it says in scriptures, right? So it says, and all his bands and be with you, right? Because once again, you know, Russia and his allies are going to come up against this place, right? And all of them are going to come. As I mentioned, you know, right, if I would read it, right? Ezekiel 39:2 says, I will turn thee back, right? And leave but the sixth part. So Russia broke in sixth part. The sixth part, 1/6 of it is going to stay, right? But the 5/6 of it is going to fight. It says, and will cause these to come up from the north parts and will bring you for the mouth of Israel, right? So they're gonna come and bring destruction. 5, 6 are gonna be fighting in that war of Armageddon, right? So that's really kind of all we need on the maps at this point. So now we can, Lord willing, we can flow through the scriptures, right? So we got Persia, modern day Iran, Ethiopia, the Kushite, Libya, is in northern Africa. Gomer, which is in Turkey with Meshach and Tubal, right? Togomar, we see where that's at, right there under Georgia, Russia, Armenia, and right near the Caucasus Mountains, right? So you see how Russia plays a part, and all Russia have interest in all this, right? So let's continue reading. Verse 7. It says, "Be thou prepared, and prepare thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and thou be a guard unto them." Because Russia is a guard unto them. That's why America can't just run in and do what they want to do to them. Even China as well, which is a strong power. And now today, Russia can't just walk in and just bully them, how they want to, because Russia is a guard unto them, right? So we have verse 10. That's verse 10. Verse 8, right? Verse 8, it says, "And after many days thou shalt be visited, and in the latter day thou shalt come to the land that's brought back from the sword." And that goes into the land brought back from the sword. That's the land of Israel, right? Because our land has been trodden down and has been, Luke 21 and 24. You have a lot of people who took over our land, the Babylonians, right? The Medo-Persians, right? The Greeks, the Romans, right? You have a lot of people who done took over our land or whatnot, So it says, "After many days thou shalt be visited, and in the latter days thou shalt come into the lands brought back from the sword," right? "And is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have always been waste, but is brought forth out of nations that shall dwell safely, all of them," right? And you have many people who done came took over our land, man, right? You even had the Crusades, the Muslims. You had the Crusades, the Muslims, the Byzantine Empire, So you had these people who done trot down our land. So that's that land, right, that is being brought back from the sword, right? It's gathered out of many people, because many people done been in our land, right? Luke 21, I think it's 24 and 21, Israel have been trotted down many nations to the times of the Gentiles. Let's grab it. Right, it's Luke. I think it's 21 and 24. It's 24 and 21. Yeah, 21 and 24. Right? It says, "And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jews shall be trodden down to Gentiles, to the times of Gentiles be fulfilled." So our nation has been trodden down by many nations, by many nations, not whatnot, right? So Most High has to cleanse our land. The Most High has to use that fire of destruction to cleanse our land, right? So let's go back to Ezekiel 38. If I can find the chapter, right? So right here back in Ezekiel 38, right? And verse 8 again says, "After many days thou shalt be visited, and in the latter days thou shalt come to the land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them," right? And that's how you know that we're not in our land yet, right? Because we're going to dwell safely when we're in our land, right? Let's see what it says in NLT, right? Right here, it says, "A long time from now you will be called into action. In the distance," Ezekiel 38:8 NLT, it said, "In the distant future you will swoop down on the land of Israel, which will be enjoying peace after recovering from war, right? And after his people have returned from the many lands to the mountains of Israel," right? So, it been you have many people that's in our land, right? And when we get into our land, that's how you know the children of Israel not in our land, because when we get into our land, it's gonna be peace, right? And we ain't gonna be going through war and things that such, right? So jumping down to verse 9, right? It says, "Thou shalt sin come like a storm, thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, now thy bands, meaning thy armies, and many people with thee," right? It says, this saith the Lord Yahweh, "It shall come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, thou shalt think an evil thought." So they're gonna think an evil thought. They're gonna bring destruction upon this place, right? It says, "And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages." What's the land of unwalled villages? Right? It's talking about America, right? Because this place, besides like them few little border points, whatnot, ain't no wall in to protect you from coming in, you know. Even this missile defense is weak because you got to think the Most High Spirit going to be in these missiles going to hit exactly what they're supposed to. Even if they have these defense system that goes up and try to knock the missile, it ain't going to be strong enough to stop the missile off his power, knock it off his path, right? It says, I will go to them that are at rest, right? Because I was just going into this other day, right? And I was talking, it was talking about how, America was after World War II, America was at his peak in a sense because it never had war on his land. War never touched his land, you know? And so and it says that dwell it says, I will go to them that are at rest that dwell safely, right? So America be at rest, they dwell safely because there's never been war on his land, right? That's why when it hit, people gonna be so confused and so lost, and it says because they ain't gonna know what's going on. They ain't gonna know what to do because war never his land. But now that evil most likely put an evil thought on Russia, and they're gonna bring that war to this land. America's gonna be destroyed in Israel, right? And any other place else is hit by the missiles, right? It says, and all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates, because there's nothing that can truly stop to protect this place, right? It says to take spoil and to take prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods that dwell in the midst of the land, right? So America's going to be destroyed. America's going to be spoiled, man. Right? They're going to be taken down, right? It says Sheba and Dedan and the mercies of Tarshish, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take prey, to carry away silver and gold, take away the cattle and goods, to take a great spoil? Right? So let's go into Sheba and Dedan, right? Sheba and Dedan today is inhabited by the Arab nation, so-called, Saudi Arabia, right? Right? But they go back to the Cushites as well, because we understand that Cush or Hamites, because Cush is a descendant of Ham, right? So let me see. Let's go here. I'm gonna look up let's go to the map, right? Let's go to the map and you see the Dan. You see the Dan is right there, right? Saudi Arabia. Let me see if we got a map that shows what Saudi Arabia is. I got it on. I thought I did. Okay, here it is, right? If you can see it, see how Persia right there, and they got Saudi Arabia right there where the Dan is, right? And you had I want to say ancient Babylon was like right around there. That's why you had when you understand it, the ancient Babylonians, they were really Cushites, but Nebuchadnezzar, he ran the empire, but he was an Assyrian. That's why, the Assyrian Babylonian Empire, which, the Babylonian king was Assyrian. Elder Apostle Hart spoke on that a while ago when he was going into Daniel 7, right? How the king was Assyrian, right? That's why you have Assyrian, because really, the Assyrian Babylonian Empire, because the Assyrian was there, but you had Babylonians come take it over, but Nebuchadnezzar and them was Assyrians, right? It says, you had some that lived in the area of Sheba and Dedan, or the Hamite, but today those lands are inhabited. Today those lands are inhabited by the Arabs, and Russia has a big influence on these Islamic nations like Persia, Sheba, Dedan, Kush, Libya, right? Russia has a big influence on them, right? As the scriptures say, Russia is a guardian to them, man, right? So right here, verse 14, right? It says, therefore, son of man, prophesy saying to Gog, right? And when you understand it, this is going back into history, right? It's jumping back into history, right? It says, therefore, son of man, say unto Gog, this is the Lord Yahweh, and that day when my people Israel go safely, and shalt thou not know it, and thou shalt come from thy place out of the north parts, thou and many people with thee, and all of them riding upon horses, a great company, a mighty army, right? That's why it says that, because you got to understand, they did come up against our land. They did come up against our people, right? At the Babylonian Empire, right? It says, now shall I come up against my people, Israel, as a cloud to cover the land. It shall be in the latter days, I will bring thee against my land, that the heathen may know me, when I be sanctified in thee, O God, before their eyes. So, because it was part of prophecy, the ancient Medes did take our land after the Babylonian Empire because it was a part of prophecy. You know, Daniel 7, you know, we had the Babylonians, you had Medo-Persians, right? Because that's what we had to go through, right? The scriptures tell us that the empires that were ruled before the end would come. The scriptures, you know, it told us, you know, those 4 beasts that rule, and they was the second beast, right? Which was what is that? What is that like let me go to that. Daniel 7, around about verse 4. Yeah. Where it says Daniel 7 and 5, actually, it says, and beheld another beast, a second like unto a bear, going to the Medo-Persian, raised up from one side because the Medes was first, but the Persians came stronger, right? It says, and it had 3 reels in the mouth between us, going into how they conquered the regions they conquered, east, south, north, and how they conquered, you know, east, south, northwest, right? You know, and it says, it had 3 reels in the mouth of it between the teeth. It had 3 reels in the mouth of it between the teeth of it, right? Once again, it's the 3 areas they conquered and how they conquered, north, south, east, west, right? And they said this unto it, arise and devour much flesh, because it was crazy to come up against them. It was crazy to be, you know, it was thought crazy to fight his empire back then, right? In a sense, right? Let's go back to Ezekiel 38. All right. We were in verse 16 or 17, right? Right? It says, this saith the Lord Yahweh, art thou he whom I have spoken in old time of my servants, the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years? I will bring thee against them. That's, you know, and now it's going back into the future. It jumps back, right, to the future, right? He said, it shall come to pass at that same time, God shall come against the land of Israel, saith the Lord Yahweh, Yahweh my fury, that my fury shall come up in my face, right? So you know, this is the judgment of Yahweh Bashin Yahweh Shah, but Israel going to be destroyed in America, right? It says, for in my jealousy and the fire of my wrath I have spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel, right? How's it going to be a great shaking, right? You know, the nuclear missiles, these bombs, the destruction that's going to come upon America and Israel, man. The whole world is going to shake. Everything's going to shake. These missiles are going to hit and shake everything. Things going to be destroyed, going out by nuclear fire, nuclear destruction, man. Right? It says, also, what is it, Isaiah? I know the elder brought out Isaiah 24. I know what is that, what speaks on that destroying, it's a chapter that speaks on the destroying wind, right? You know, mushroom cloud, right? You know, all 2 Peter, that burnt of favorite heat, you know, right? So this is talking about those missiles that destruction was going to shake the earth, shake the land, right? Oh, the earthquake was that Revelation 14, right? Let me see. I'll type in earthquake. Let me come up. Let me see. Okay, fine, let me see. Yeah, right here, Revelation 6 and 12. It says, not beheld, he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake. What is that great earthquake? The destruction, the bombs hit, you know? And it says, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, the moon became as blood, because you're going to have, you know, that soot covering up, man. You know, that soot going to be covering, it's going to be smoke, destruction, nuclear radiation all in the air, man, right? So that's what's going to shake the earth, those nuclear missiles, the destruction, the waster, as the scripture call it, right? So let's go back to Ezekiel 38. Ezekiel 38, and we were around at verse 20. It says, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of heaven and the beasts of the field and all the creeping things that creep upon the earth and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, because the only people that's going to overcome this destruction is the elect, because they're going to be, Lord willing, we're that hopefully elect, we're going to be in the chariots, man. Everybody else is going to be destroyed by nuclear power, nuclear destruction. The birds, everything. Everything gonna feel the destruction. Everything gonna feel it, right? It says, and the mountain shall be thrown down, talking about the governments of this world, right? They're going to be brought down. Everything we brought down, because this destruction we brought, like how about Yahweh Shai? You're going to have them drop nuclear missiles on each other. Then you're going to have Yahweh Shai and the angels come bring destruction on this place. The chariots beaming this place up, tearing this place up. So everybody going to feel it. The only people going to overcome is the elect. The government's going to be brought down. The kings and these kings and princes, queens, whatever you want to call it, all this going to be brought down, right? It says, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. Cause everything going to be destroyed, you know? Those your dogs? Yep. Okay, yeah. Gotta make sure many dogs running loose. Right. Yeah. All right, so threw me off. Told me you gotta be focused, man. Esau running around this track, be having dogs loose, you know. But well, you know, spirit, how about Shah protect it, right? So let's continue going on. We at verse 21, right? It says, and I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, says the Lord Yahweh, and every man's sword shall be against his brother, because there's gonna be a great war going on, right? Armageddon, World War III, man, the war to end all wars. And then once they fight each other, Exodus 13 goes into how, you know, they're gonna stop fighting each other and turn to fight Yahweh Shah. Right, so there's gonna be a great war going on, man. This is the end. This is the end of the end. That's why this is a key prophecy, man. It's a key prophecy to understand and go through it. And the Spirit been on me to go into this chapter, you know, of how Russia and his allies are going to come up and bring destruction on America and Israel. Right? America's going to be destroyed and never come back up. We're going to build the land of Israel back up to the kingdom of Yahweh Shai, and understanding that wherever else get hit by the missiles, right? It's I will please against them with pestilence and blood. With blood, that pestilence, though, it goes into the pestilence is those missiles, but also it goes to those diseases and sickness as well, you know, that are already out here, right? It says, and I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood, and I will rain upon him and upon his bands, upon his armies, right? Bands of armies, and upon the many people that are with him, right? And overflowing rain and great hailstones, fire, and brimstone, right? Because when you go into scripture, that's what Esau been trying to do, if you understand it too, right? You know, but this going into Gog and Magog, right? But understanding that Most High is going to destroy them as well, right? You know, Most High is using them to come destruction this place, and the Most High is going to destroy all of them in a sense. Right? He gathering all. That's why it's called the Valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh Shaphat. But he would gather them all up and bring them to the Middle East, right? He gathered them the kings of the East, right? What is that? Revelation 16, right? Where he gathered the kings of the East, he's going to bring them together, and he's going to destroy all of them. You know, that's where they gathered at for that great battle. You know, that's why I said I will plead against him, right, with the pestilence and with blood, and I will rain upon him and upon his bands, and then many people that are with him, and overflowing rain and great hailstones, fire and brimstone, right? You know, so understanding that everything's gonna be destroyed in a sense, right? Everything's gonna be destroyed. Just put it like that. You know, trying to think of, you know, nothing else to put it in, but everything's gonna be destroyed. Gog and Magog gonna get it. America gonna get it. Russia gonna get it. It's Most High using Gog and Magog to bring the destruction on America, Revelation 13:2, and bring destruction on Israel and America. And then the Most High is gonna bring destruction on all of them to get rid of all of them. Or I read Ezekiel 38 and 22, right? In verse 21 to 22 in the NLT, so you can get it, right? It says, and I will summon the sword against you, right? On all the hills of Israel, says the sovereign Lord. Your men will turn their swords against each other, right? I will punish you and your armies with diseases and bloodshed, and I will send territorial rain, hailstone, fire, and burning sulfur, right? You know, so the Most High is going to destroy them all. What's he got? My first grad at Joel, because he's going to bring destruction on. He using them, but he's going to bring destruction on them too. And why he said, I'm against thee, O God, and make God. You know? Let's see. Joel chapter 3, verse 2, it says, I will also gather all nations, and I will bring them to the valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh Shaphat, and will plead with them that from my people and from my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and part of my land. So all of them going to get it, man. All of them going to get it, right? And verse 23, right? It says, this will I sanctify, this will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations. They shall know that I am the Lord Yahweh, right? Because, once these other nations and all these people being brought down, especially Esau Edom, everybody gonna know the Lord, the true power, right? Yahweh being the Father, Yahweh shall being the Son. That's why he said to Pharaoh, I have raised you up for this purpose. I raised you up for this purpose. Same thing he doing. Same thing he doing. Esau Edom. Same thing he doing with God. Once he raised them up, he gonna destroy them, and everybody will know that it was all his plan. Everybody will know what he controls it all. That's why Isaiah 2 speaks of how they gonna flow to the mountains of Israel, meaning the governments of Israel, and they're gonna seek the knowledge of understanding, because it's gonna be forced to the whole world. Right? We're gonna be the rulers of the world. We're gonna control everybody. We're gonna control and run everybody. The other nations are gonna be our slaves. Esau Edom, they're gonna be tied up and done away with after their time's up in slavery. That's why Daniel 7 goes into that. It speaks on how real fast, grab it. Daniel 7, around verse 12, it says, concerning the rest of the beasts that had dominion taken away, it allows it prolonged for a season and time, right? Because after this fourth beast is going to be done away with, which is today's that revival of empire, right? These Edomites, they're going to be done away with, right? But these other nations, they're going to be able to go back to their lands, but they're going to have to follow the laws of Yahweh Shah after they time up in slavery. They still going to be tributary service unto us, right? In a sense, right? But we're gonna let them go into their lands and remember themselves. They still gonna be our servants though, man. We're gonna have slaves in the kingdom. We're gonna be over everybody, right? So with that being said, Lord willing, right? Hope this lesson was edifying and exalting, right? And I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to those few legs, starting with the 144,000. Shalom, man. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this, this is a big key prophecy, and it's soon to come to pass. As we see, it's ramping up. We can see World War III at the doorstep right now. If it do go down, it's going to be because World War III not going to fully be in full effect until the MOTB is mandated and pushed out. And after that, we're going to know, hey, we're gonna see it all come to pass, because Isaiah 34:16 tell you, none of these shall fail, man. Speaking of the prophecy. So with that being said, shalom, and on to the next.